say a few words about the lawsuit itself.
So I think everything you just said, hand it to Ben for a few moments on the lawsuit, on what it changes, the section, the wonky stuff, if you will. And then any closing comments?
I would say ask Andy if there's anything that he would like to say locally.
Yeah, I might bring you up for a minute after he talks, if that's okay, just while you're here. I'm going to talk about the specific informing requirement. I'm going to talk about obtaining conversations without their permission, and I'm going to talk about this whole idea of allowing police to secretly report people being tasered, but making it illegal for people to secretly report the police tasering them. Do I have to wear a mask?
No.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So I am here in front of the federal courthouse in Portland, Oregon. We just dropped off evidence in this lawsuit. We filed a lawsuit against the state of Oregon. The recording law here prohibits us from doing our undercover journalism, exposing what's going on inside these protests and who's behind them. So we have filed a lawsuit against the state of Oregon in federal court to have its law criminalizing undercover journalism ruled unconstitutional. This comes off the heels of a federal judge in Boston ruling that the Massachusetts law that criminalized undercover journalism was unconstitutional. Project Veritas overturned the law in Massachusetts that prohibited undercover journalism. So now, Oregon's law is even worse. Oregon Statute 165540 was designed to prevent surreptitious wiretaps. It's a reasonable law, but the statute has been used by Oregon authorities to jail journalists who so much as tape record an interview with an elected official. So we filed this lawsuit. The law again says that conversations with others without, quote, specifically informing them the conversation is being obtained. We are challenging that law. We think it's absolutely outrageous that Oregon makes it such that police can secretly record people being tasered, but makes it illegal for people to secretly record police tasering them. We have won 8 straight lawsuits at Project Veritas. We intend to do this in Oregon and Maryland. Ben Barr is our attorney that handles these matters. Ben, if you'd like to say a few words about this lawsuit.
I would. It's outrageous to think that the heart of the First Amendment protects the right of citizens to hold those in power accountable. And the prime way that Veritas does that is by being able to record secretly those who seek office, those who are in office, those who hold power, whether it's the police or the tax collector. And it was no less than Martin Luther King who said, you cannot dispel darkness with darkness. Only light dispels darkness. And that's what Veritas brings through its work. It's the same thing that Justice Brandeis said, that electronic light is the best disinfectant. Well, I tell you what, for the past 3 months, it's 89 days of riding today. I think a lot of Veritas light or other investigative journalism light would have brought truth to the people. There's only a law that prevents journalists from doing so, or citizen activists, whether you're Antifa, Black Lives Matter, or Project Veritas. We intend to correct that and knock the law down so that we can get this truth, and we can hold wrongdoers accountable and those in power accountable.
And again, we've defeated Massachusetts law, and now we intend to overturn Oregon's law such that we can work here, because we need to know what's going on. So that's pretty much it. We filed a copy of the lawsuit. We dropped off some evidence. Can you maybe just describe what we dropped off?
Yeah, we wanted to show that Veritas has a real history of investigating protests. They were there for the Unite the Right rally. They were there in Atlanta, Georgia, to be able to show the court this is really important work and really important news. And when you impose barriers between journalists and the public in terms of being able to get to relevant information, it does a real harm.
One question I have, if you're able to find out, how long has this been on the books here in Oregon?
An early version of it, I think since the 1960s, and it's changed ever gradually since, and that's only made the law worse by creating a complex maze of exemptions. For example, you don't have to tell the police that you can record them, you have to have your device out openly. But if a tax collector is trying to get a bribe out of you, or a bureaucrat's trying to hammer you, you can't record them in the same way. So there's sort of favored areas where government wants you to record, disfavored areas, and never secret recording.
And are you wanting this to be removed completely from the books? Are you wanting it amended?
We think that the law should be stricken entirely. I think it would be difficult to rewrite it, but we've given the court both options. If they think they can excise the portions that are offensive to the First Amendment, so be it. Otherwise, just obliterate it. It's something that's a hodgepodge of laws over several decades. Send it back to the Oregon legislature. Let them rewrite something while they examine what the First Amendment requires of them.
Last question I have, and if you can answer this, do you know, I imagine there's probably several more states that have some version of this on the books.
Yes.
You know, I guess this is just kind of a state-by-state situation.
No, it's not. So Oregon is definitely in the minority. There are 38 states that allow you to freely record. They protect privacy in other ways. They don't stop news gatherers from doing news gathering in a free society. There's 11 other states that employ some variety of what we call a two-party consent. But they ask a question of, is the situation really private? And they normally give you guideposts about figuring that out. So if someone's in a hushed conversation, they're whispering in a secluded area, that's private. If they're here in a park and they're yelling, it's not private. You can record it. So Oregon kind of went way off the tracks and not respecting that. And so it's definitely not within the norm of what we see nationally.
When do you expect to get a response?
Well, we will be filing injunctive pleadings later this week, and there'll be 2 weeks from there for the state to be able to file a response, and then a hearing shortly thereafter. So we're looking at probably another 3 weeks here before we jump into that.
Does this law prevent you from properly investigating something like the DSA?
DSA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can't work here. We can't work here until this law is overturned. And I am the type of person they would prosecute. So we think it's an injustice. There's no expectation of privacy when you're in a public place, public park, to record what people are doing and saying. They're not going to be honest with us if I say I'm with Project Veritas and I'd like to know all the fraud you're committing. And that's just, people are more honest in private. And we think that secretly recording someone is so intimately connected with the ability to just talk and repeat what people tell you. We think that the hidden camera is an extension of the pencil and paper. Yes. So we think this is such a fundamental constitutional issue. In Massachusetts, I think one of the comments that was made by the court is that it is a human right to record someone. So we intend to challenge this in Oregon. We intend to challenge it in Maryland. It may go to the Supreme Court. But in this time and age, what we do is extremely important. And first-hand documentary audio-visual evidence is the most important thing, not hearsay or anonymous sources.
And that's what our judge in Massachusetts said in federal court there. This is a unique medium. This is the only way to have the most accurate preservation of what occurred. So the law is not really stopping me from telling other people what happened in this park. It's just eliminating the most effective way to store that. I can write it down in a notepad, I can tell people secondhand afterwards, but it's just destroying the most effective way to gather and then publish the news.
Andy?
Yes, Andy Mill here. You spent some time doing investigative. You spent some time investigating Rose City Antifa here in 2017, 2018. If this, how does the current recording laws, how did that impact and or delay your reporting? The videos that you released were extremely important and highlighted, one, the meeting place, and two, it showed some of the organizational tactics and extremism that happens behind closed doors. No other journalist would have been able to uncover that without your undercover reporting. But it's my understanding that you were hampered by the law here. So how have you been affected?
That was the story we did at the bookstore. The name of the bookstore was
In Other Words.
In Other Words, from years ago. And they were talking about practicing an eye gouge. This is Rose City Antifa here in Oregon. Eye gouging people's eyes out. In other states, they were saying that self-defense is not really self-defense. So, I mean, yeah, we did attempt to do some work here, but we were so limited by the scope of that work because of the law. Again, this is the Rose City Antifa investigation. You want to speak to that? How limited we were?
Yeah, no, it's incredibly difficult to do any sort of effective reporting. Oregon government sets up whole sets of categories where you can supposedly do open recording. You don't always know where the boundaries of that is. So Oregon law says you can record at a rally. Well, is a rally a block away from it? Is it you have to be in contiguous formation with everyone else marching? There's absolutely no ability to secretly record, which hampers the most effective sort of recording. So no, it's really difficult. And when the most important stories that are happening right now, when Portland is the center of national unrest, racial relations, and political dissatisfaction, why shouldn't we be able to get to that information in the best way possible?
And in that bookstore, they made everyone put their recording devices in the bathroom. They
Turn
were
the fan
obviously
on.
afraid of being reported on. And we just think that in areas where there's no expectation of privacy, you should be able to report what's going on.
And why should reporters have to sacrifice their lives to do their job? There's great precedent, NAACP versus Alabama, Socialist Workers' Party from the United States Supreme Court, that says when someone's exercising their First Amendment rights and they're likely to be injured or killed, they have a right to be able to hold those laws in abeyance. So federal campaign disclosure laws, forced disclosure of membership lists in Alabama and the like. Here, having the camera out and equally visible when we have Antifa around us, when we have violent agitators, puts reporters' lives in jeopardy, and I think the First Amendment has something to say about that.
Anything else, Megan?
I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. I can
Thank
talk
you.
to you
Names and
offline.
spelling.
Names and spelling. My name is James O'Keefe. I'm the founder of Project Veritas and Project Veritas Action. That's O''K''E''F''E. This is
Benjamin Barr, BenJamin, last name Barr, BARR, partner with Barr & Klein, PLLC.
okay. Thank you all for coming.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.